Hi, my name is Roberto Asino, and today I will discuss what is solid principle and why is it important in software development. But first, what is a solid principle? Solid principle is an acronym that stands for five design principles that make software design more understandable, flexible, and maintainable. So by adhering to these principles, lead to better code scalability, testability, and readability. Solid principles help us build software that's easier to maintain, extend, and test. They encourage developers to write cleaner and more modular code. So these are the five principles that we're talking about. So they stand for each of the first word of the principle. So single responsibility, open close, list scope substitution, interface segregation, and dependency inversion. So those are the five principles that comprises the solid principles. For single responsibility, so this rule says that a class should have only one reason to change, and meaning it should only have one responsibility. So let's look for this example. Um, so as you can see here, we have a employee class. So you can implement what properties or methods it has. So here we have a employee service. So this class, it violates the single responsibility because we have multiple function here that serve different purposes. So first, we have save employee that save employee records on the database, and then we have a calculate payroll. So it calculates or it gets the salary of the employee. And then the other one here, retrieve evaluation. So if there are some um, performance evaluation for the employee, so we get all of those records using this service. So now, so to fix this one, to adhere with the single responsibility principle, so what we can do here is to create classes or services that will serve each of this functionality. So for this one, let's make a class for calculate payroll. So let's say it's a payroll service, and then we give this class, this function, and then for this retrieve evaluation, so we also create a separate class for that. So let's say performance service. So something like that. So now with this, we can separate each of this functionality, and then with this kind of setup, so we can extend or at least how do this give some other function like let's say retrieving employees or get details, something like that. And then we pass ID. Right, so so you can see here it is much more cleaner. Then at the same time, if there are bugs that we encounter, for example on a certain part of our program, like employee details didn't save properly, so we know what service or on what part of our program we will try to debug. So if you put all of those functions in one service, so especially if this is a big project, so you will cram all of the of the details just to pinpoint where the exact location of the bug. So with this, we can segregate everything to easily find or fix issues when it arises. Okay. So another example of violating the single responsibility principle is by this. So as you can see here, we have a status class with two properties, which is the ID and the description. And then we also have another class here, order. with ID and title, and then we have two status here, which is request status and then order status. But these two status, they use the status class as the type. So now this violate the single responsibility principle, because these two status, request and order, they might be different, but I mean they're different, but they might be some um, common on each other. So like status, maybe ID and description are common properties for this request status and order. So for example, if there's a requirement to change or to add something on request status, so by doing this, if we try to add another property here, for example, something like that, so mean to say the order status will change as well. So that's why we try to eliminate this type of changes and make only those changes local to each properties. So to fix this, what we can do is that we can create separate classes for each of these statuses. So for example, request status. So since both statuses has the same ID and description, so we can inherit that one and then make another class for this order status, something like that. So when we try to change, for example, request status, so we add another property here. Let's say no, let's say date time, and then timestamp, something like that, right? So with this, only the request status will modify or will have this property. So order status will not get affected. All right. So that's how you fix the, or I mean, that's how you can adhere on the single responsibility principle. Okay. Next, open close principle. So this rule says that software entities, classes, modules, or function should be open for extension but closed for modification. So what does it mean is that here for our example, so we have a class here, rectangle, that has two property and then a constructor, which we pass the length and the width. And then other one, circle. So we have a radius property here, and then a constructor as well. And then now we have a shape. So this shape has a function to calculate the area. So we pass the shape as an object, and then here we define what to do when we receive a certain shape. No, so we try to calculate the area for the given shape. So by using condition here. So if the shape is a rectangle, so we instantiate the shape and then we calculate the area. Then the same with circle as well. So for example, if we try to add a new implementation or a new class, let's say triangle, right? So the two property that we want is let's say base, and then the other one is the height. All right. So we'll create a construction as well for, actually base is a reserved word, so we try to not to use the exact um sorry, and then pass height. All right. So something like that. So we want to implement a new shape. So here, if we're trying to pass this triangle, So this fails, right? So we don't have any condition to satisfy um to calculate the triangle area. So it violates the open close it violates the open close principle because we're trying to modify the shape class just to fit the new implementation that we have. So how do we fix this? So we can fix this by let's say let's comment out this first, and then we have a let's make this shape as an abstract class. So since we want sorry, abstract. So since we want to make this as the base class for the shapes, then we make this a abstract as well. Okay. And then so now what we can do is to instead if we have a new implementation, so what we can do is just inherit the sorry, the base class, something like that, and then we will try to override the calculate shapes. Okay. um it has a double as the return type. So now what we can do is that return the calculated area for that. So you can just say 10 times width, and then the same with other class like this one shape. We will try to copy the implementation, something like that. Okay, and then for triangle, um calculation for area is, so let's override double and then calculated area. So return, let's say base, right? So base times height, and then the product of these two, we will divide it by 2, right? So that's it. So we have implementation for each shape, the calculation for their area. All right. So if we try to add a new shape once again, so we will just override the calculated area, and then we implement what the calculation is, right? So this fix the open close principle by doing that. Okay, so next, Liskov substitution principle. So this rule says that objects of a superclass should be replaceable with objects of a superclass without affecting the correctness of the program. So as you can see here in our example, so we have a base class now of order. So it has two implementation, one property and one function, total and process payment. And then we have a another class here, which is a standard order that inherit from order class. So now it tries to override the process payment. So we do the implementation here. And then the second class that inherits the order is that it tries to override the process payment as well. But here we can see that this is for free order. Okay, and then this one, it violates the Liskov substitution principle because of we're trying to implement something that is not applicable for the pre-order, right? So something here that pre-orders don't require payment, which is true. So to fix this, so what we do is that instead of we try to put the process payment, no, as a implementation here in our base class, So we convert it into interface. Like example, in this case, I payable to process payment. And then here, our base class. So we still have the total here. And then now, what we're trying to do here is to inherit on the order class, and then we try to implement the um, interface, right? So now we have a concrete implementation here of the process payment. And then for the free order, so since we still need to calculate for the total and other properties that we implement here, but we are not going to implement the interface in this case. But since free order doesn't have to process payment, okay, so they still inherit order class, but the implementation for process payment is not applicable for the free order. So sometimes we encounter this kind of issue or problem, just to if we saw that for example there are certain base class, and then on that base class we only need a certain maybe property or function on that base class, and then we, instead of making a new class out of those very specific functionality, and then we try to use it on our feature that we're trying to implement. So we try to implement the whole class instead, and then we adhere to implement what are the requirements for inheriting that class. So we try to not to do that, because we want to be each our classes very independent on each other. So yeah, so that's Liskov substitution. So, and that's how you fix certain issue for that. Okay. Next principle is the uh, interface segregation principle. So it says that no client should be forced to implement methods it does not use. So interfaces should be small and focused. So for our example, so as you can see here, we have an interface which is I animal, and then we have two function here. So walk and groom. So now we try to implement a dog class, which implements the I animal. So since this is a interface, so we are obligated to implement both function. All right. So that's fine with dog, since the dog can walk and we can groom the dog because dog is a pet, right? But what if we try to implement a crocodile? No, so you implement the animal, and then so we are being forced to implement walk and then as well groom. So we cannot groom crocodile. So since they are not domesticated animals, so here if we try to delete the groom, so the interface will try, right, or I mean will notify us that we need to do that. So to fix this issue, what we do is that, so instead of putting this to function on the animal class, so we try to create another interface for, um let's say iPad, right? So here we can try to implement the animal as well. So we remove, or we put this here instead. Okay. So now what we can do here is that instead of dog, we'll implement I animal. So now we try to implement I pet. Since what will happen here is we're trying to what we called here is interface chaining, right? So we try to link these two interface, and then both of those interfaces will need to be implemented on our class. So walk and then groom. Here in the case of crocodile, so we are not obligated to implement groom. So since we are not implementing the iPet, or if you want, yeah, let's put it here. So yeah, so we only need to implement walk in this case, right? So that's one of the reason why we try to segregate and make the interface small as possible, right? So okay, so next the next one and the last is dependency inversion principle. So this rule says that high-level modules should not depend on a low-level modules. Both should depend on abstraction. So here in our example, as you can see here, um, we have a interface iLogger, which has a one method. So that's log, and then it accept a message. So we have a two um, classes here for file logger and terminal logger, so that both of these implements the log or iLogger, and then we try to use that here in our payment service. So we have a private read-only what all this field here for logger, and then we have a constructor for payment service that accept logger, and then we assign that logger to our um local variable here. So this is the dependency inversion, right? So since the so the what they call this the constructor didn't accept a concrete class as its parameter, so we try to inject or to put interface instead. So here, if we're going to use that um payment service, so we pass the logger here, which is a terminal logger. So for example, if there's a new requirement, instead of using the terminal logger, we try file logger instead. So this one, it doesn't affect our our code structure here, since what we're going to do is just to create a new logger and then pass it to the payment service, right? So if, for example, instead of putting, let's say, in interface there, and we put a concrete class instead. So if we try to write terminal logger, so this part will not accept the terminal logger. So since it's only accept a file logger instead. So we can fix that, to be honest, if we're going to put let's say a new constructor for this. But this if we try to do that, it violates the open and close principle. So we try to modify our service just to adhere or just to accept a new implementation of Vlogger, right? So so we try to not to do that, so that what we can do is, instead of passing a concrete class, we pass the abstraction instead. Since these two logger, they implements iLogger. So if, for example, in the future, we want to add a new um, logger class, like cloud example, cloud logger. So implement that, and then the functions well. So now, if this what we want to use, for example, in this case, so still, the payment service will not get affected by that changes. Okay, so since we are passing the well, I mean, the service class just accept any class that implements iLogger. Okay, so all right, so final thoughts regarding solid principle. So following solid principle leads to modular, maintainable, and scalable code. By applying this principle can reduce bugs, technical debt, and improve long-term code quality. So the solid principles are foundational to writing robust and flexible code. By applying these principles in your project, you can ensure your software is easier to maintain, extend, and scale. All right, so I think that's it. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you, and bye bye.